Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. So in this video I'm going to tell you about the use of insert command in SQL. Okay, so as its name suggests, it's used to insert data in the DB tables. Okay, so why do we create the tables? In order to insert some data. So for inserting the data into the table, so we use this insert command. Okay, now here the insertion can be performed on the basis of three situations. There may be three situations in which we used to insert the data. Okay, so the very first situation over here is what? If we want to insert only one record in the table. For example, this is a table that this is a student table. If we want to insert the record of a new student, only one record of that student. Okay, so in that case, what will we do? Second case is what? If we want to insert some columns of a record. For example, if you want to insert the information of a student named Karan, but we don't know about the address of that student, so in that case we will insert only these three columns. Okay, we only know about the student ID, that Karan's ID, his name and his marks. We don't know about the address of Karan, so in that case how do we insert? Okay, and the third one case is what? If we want to insert more than one records. Okay, if we want to insert the records of two students at same time. Okay, so in that case what we will do? So there are basically three situations while we used to perform the uh, insertion. Okay, so we will discuss all these three situations one by one using this example, this student table example. Okay, so firstly, if we want to insert only one record in this table. Okay, for example, we want to insert a record of a student named Karan. Okay, so how do we insert that record in this table? So this is the first case. If you want to insert only one record, so in that case, this is what the syntax that we use to insert. If we want to insert only one record in the table, that is insert into table name, whatever the table name in which we want to make insertion. Okay, values and list of values separated by commas. Okay, so this is the most important. In this parenthesis, we use to enter all the values of the columns. Okay, that are going to be separated by commas. Now let us take an example over here. We have inserted a record of a student Karan. Okay, so how do we insert using this syntax? It is insert into student values. Here is two is what the student ID, and this is the name of the student, marks of the students, and this is what the address of the students. Now we know that these two columns are character types. Okay, we this is of varchar 2 and this is also of varchar 2, and we have discussed in our character data type, if we are going to store a value in a column that is specified by using a character data type, so we must have to specify with this the single quotational marks. Okay, one must have to specify that value in single quotational marks, otherwise it will not be considered in that column. Okay, so you want to store a value in character type, so one must have to specify it in this single quotational marks. Okay, so this is what the way how do we insert only a single row in this table. Okay, so this is what the syntax. Now one more thing that one must know over here, that the order of inserting all the values must be same as the order of columns there are. Okay, we cannot shuffle, we cannot write current before two. Okay, if there is a student ID first in this column, so one must have to enter the student ID and then the student name, marks and the address. So this is for the syntax for inserting only one record in the table. Okay, and one must and the entire uh, order must be maintained. Okay, the order in which columns are presented over here, the data must be stored in that order also. So this is for the first case, if we want to insert only one record in the table. So after firing this query, okay, this insert table query, this record will be inserted on this row. Okay, so this entire record will be inserted like this in this table. Okay, so this is the way how do we perform insertion of on only a single record. Now, let us take our second case when we want to enter our data in some columns of a record. Okay, for example, this one record. We have seen this entire record consists of four columns, but we have entered the data only in three columns because we do not know about the address of Seema. So, how do we insert this kind of records? Okay, how do we insert this kind of records where we want to insert data in some columns only? We do not know about the data of all the columns. Okay, so this is a second case, and how do we tackle this kind of cases? So in that kind of cases, so how do we perform insertion? In this case, we will have to mention the column names in which we want to insert the data. Okay, for example, this is what the syntax over here: insert into table name. Here it is also same as the first case syntax also, but the difference over here is what we have to mention the columns in which we want to insert data. For example, we have inserted data in three columns, that is student id, student name and marks. So we will have to specify those columns in this parenthesis with this column table name, and then values of all the columns, okay, that we want to insert. Let us understand this with the help of an example over here. See, it is insert into student. How many columns in which we want to insert the data? It is student id, student name and address. What are the values? Three. Shilpa, I have written over Shilpa, but in that I have written over Seema. Okay, three, Shilpa and Patra. Okay, for example, this is an example that I have taken over here of this student id, student name and address table column. In this we do not about the marks of Shilpa. Okay, so we have first specified all the columns in which we want to insert the data, and then the values that we want to insert in that columns. Okay, so this is what the example. Okay, this is what the case, and this is was the way that we use in order to insert some data in some columns, not all the columns of the record. Okay, so this is a second case. Now one more thing over here is that, so if we're going to store the data on only three columns, so what will be happen with the fourth column? So the compiler will automatically store null in other columns. Okay, for example, so in this table, we have inserted only these three columns, and we do not know about the address of Seema. So after insertion of this record, the compiler will automatically insert over here the null. Okay, null represents nothing. So it is what the case with other columns. All the other columns whose value we do not specify, they are marked with the null. Okay, the compiler will automatically insert the value null in those columns. So this was a second case. Now let's understand a third case over here, when we want to insert more than one record at the same time. Okay, so this is the syntax for that purpose. It's insert all into. In this we have to use this all. Okay, insert all into table name, whatever the table in which we want to insert values. Okay, all the values. Then this is a first record. Okay, then into table name, second record, and so on. How many records that we want, it's our wish. And at the end one must have to specify select star from dual. Okay, so in case of insertion of more than one records, one must have to specify at the end, that is select star from dual. Let us understand this with the help of an example over here. It is insert all into students value. This is a first record, that is for Ram 98, is my, and he is from Patna. And into student values, this is a next record. Okay, so like this we will insert all the records, and at the end we will write over select star from due. So this is the what the our third case when we want to insert more than one records in the table. Okay, thank you.